happy there. How are the levels for both of us? Talk.
Yo, yo, yo.
Yo, yo, yo. Both good?
This is YAWN.
Both channels good?
What's up? Follow me on IG. Slide into my DMs, yo.
We're rolling, right? Yeah, that's how we're going to start it, man. We're gonna, yo. Slide into my DMs. So if you want to slide into his DMs. Everybody, welcome back. It's been a while since I've recorded one of these, since last summer. Welcome back to Music&Mezcal. Here with my good friend, DJ YAWN. How you doing?
Yes, sir.
I'm
great, buddy. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good.
Awesome.
Really good.
Yeah.
Can I interest you in a little bit of mezcal? I already poured your wine.
Oh, I don't drink, actually. Is this what we're doing here?
This is what we're doing?
We're drinking?
It's okay. I have people on the show that don't drink, and then we do like
virgin mezcal.
We drink like tea or coffee, which is also good.
Yeah.
But it is fun for me to have people on that like to imbibe tasty mezcal.
I do love mezcal. I was just lying about the no drinking part.
I know. I'm aware. So I mean, I know that you're lying because I've known you for like 15 years, something like that. 10 years?
Yeah, probably 10. Yeah,
10?
I would say. Well, I started at the restaurant that we met at in 2016 or 17 or something.
Oh, okay. Okay, so not
like
as long as I thought, like 8 years.
Yeah.
So here, cheers.
Cheers to that. Nazdraví.
Nazdraví. So on the topic of that restaurant, I worked with you there for probably 2 or 3 years before it shut down. Maybe a year. I don't really know.
A couple of years. Yeah.
But it wasn't till after that I found out you were like a musician at all. And and I only first discovered that when you were working with Sophia and I, who we just mentioned was the last episode that I recorded. Mm-hmm. It's kind of cool that you're on next. But you did a whole album with her, did you not?
I did. Yeah. Yeah, we did a whole project. It was
that's a great album.
We did. Yeah,
it's a fantastic album.
Realize. Yeah, that was super.
That's
fun.
the one with "Come Through" on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was like the track that kind of went a different direction than the other ones. You know, it just has the most streams, it has the most eyes. It's the one that like people sang at our shows, which is like, you know, in like Italy, which was, you know, things to see.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of feels wild to be there from like the writing stage to the producing stage to then like touring it and people in Italy singing it. You know, it's
Mike
Moroniuk.
He was in that act as well, right?
It was doing the same. We were all kind of like writing, producing it all kind of like together. You know, I just happened to have the computer and so I was the one kind of cooking. But yeah, the writing process was kind of all three of us, which was just super fun. You know, really, really kind of kept us creative. And I think it's always like feels so much easier when there's like more than just one.
Yeah.
You know, doing the thing.
Yeah, because you said you get it cooking, right?
Yeah, exactly. But with Sophia, it was really cool because we met when I first moved to Vancouver from Nanaimo, because that's where I grew up, and I just got this opportunity to DJ at a workout class.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like through like the keg where I used to work at and stuff like that. This girl's like, "Hey, you interested in DJing this workout class?" I'm like, "I have nothing else to do on Saturdays, so sure."
Was it like Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch? And
no, you know, it was like the beginnings of like, you know, EDM and stuff like that. So everybody was like, it was pretty novel at that time. So they were stoked to have like an EDM DJ play like you know, fast music for them to just like get sweaty too. And Sophia was one of the people working out there, so we hit it off right away. Like, you know, she saw someone playing. I was like, she also did a little bit of like acoustic stuff for their cool downs. And so, yeah, we just totally hit it off and just started working together pretty much immediately, which was kind of like cool because nobody before that ever really wanted to work with me. You know, it was always like me on my own. And I've been, you know, I was kind of producing music for like probably 6 or 7 years at that point. And so, you know, I felt a little lonely. So it was really nice to find like a partner.
So that was your first foyer into performing with, creating and like performing with live musicians?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the first time. It was actually like a huge learning curve for me to kind of bring bring the production side into, or like, you know, have like beats that I'm producing, and then also like figure out a way to play them live where I wasn't just spinning, you know, on turntables. I was using my Ableton Push to trigger all the clips and, you know, do some like live filtering, and, you know, we could like extend sections and stuff like that. So it ended up being bit of a like a learning curve challenge, and it was so fun to do. It was like really, really awesome. We would essentially like record the songs however we felt like, and then I would just, you know, mute the guitar track and like the vocal track, and then just jam it with them, with the guitar player Mike and with Sophia. So yeah, it was awesome, and we just got into a groove after a while, after the learning curve kind of like subsided, and I was a little bit more comfortable. It was we were on fire.
You said by that point you had already been producing music for 6 or 7 years. Would it put you at, I don't know, early 20s, like tweens, like when you started?
When I started producing music? Yeah, I guess I got into producing, let's see, it was still in Nanaimo when I was living there. And I would say probably, well, I actually, when I was in real estate, I was a real estate agent when I was like 19. And that crashed and burned so fast. I was in it for 3 years, and I left.
You don't seem like you've got the soul of a real estate agent.
No,
that's a compliment.
No, 100%.
No knock on real estate agents out there. You got to make money somehow.
Yeah, it's just not for everyone.
Yeah,
it is a grind, man, and nobody prepared me for that grind. It was kind of like, take our money. We'll give you an office, or we'll happily take your money, and, you know, just have an office, and you figure it out on your own. And so I worked for like Remax, and they were more than happy to take my money, and they were pretty stoked. And so I was essentially just from day one struggling, and so after that I got a job because I totally crashed and burned at my mom's spa. So I was like her spa manager, and so I was like, you know, cleaning her like spray tan booth, and like cleaning her like waxing room. Be really gross. And, like,
cleaning a spray tan booth.
Yeah.
You're like, it's not awesome. No. It's not making music.
Exactly, yeah. But actually there is when, because it was so lax, because I was working for my mom. If ladies or whoever was getting their treatment done and there was nobody coming in, I would just be like, we'll just make beats on my laptop. So like pretty much since then so that was like 2011, 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you always been into the electronic scene, or house, or drum and bass, or what's sort of your like, were you into the stuff into the 90s, like, you know, all the classics like Chemical Brothers, or like
that came later on with my with my love for electronic music that kind of grew later. I mean, being from Europe, coming from the Czech Republic, I definitely like our hit parade, you know, on television with like, you know, like VJs and stuff like that. It was like techno based, you know, it's all kind of like Central Europe, you know, it's all kind of techno based. If it wasn't like Czech music, it was definitely like dance music. And so that was kind of like the regular like top 40 for me, which I actually was never really interested in. And it wasn't until like later on when I was in Canada, I listened to a lot of different music like throughout the years. Had a long stint with metal and, you know, and punk and stuff like that in my high school years. But then after high school, I started kind of looking for like things to do, like clubbing, you know. I really fell in love with like EDM, what was at that time. It was kind of a played out term now, but, you know, EDM was like the new thing. Like fell in love with like Skrillex, and there was like other producers like Wolfgang Gardner, and, you know, these are like kind of like the OG names. Even David Guetta was, you know, he's making bangers back then. And so that kind of, all of those kind of influences got me into it. Plus, like, you know, the lack of like being able to like hang out with musicians, because you're constantly like trying to set together like jamming times, and some people are not as interested as others, you know. Then like you become if you're the most driven one, it kind of becomes like you're spinning your wheels a lot, you know, you're kind of frustrated. So I was really inspired by that music, you know, EDM, to like pick up my laptop and just see what I can do.
So you've been DJing on weekends at Guilt & Co now for
shout out
about like a year, right? Somewhere around there.
Yeah,
somewhere around there. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when you came in, you were, and this is not a knock. This is a nod to your skill set. I feel like when you came in, you were kind of testing the waters with what was like, okay, what can this room handle? Mm-hmm. What can I do in this room?
Yep.
And then as you started sort of to like feel the inhale and the exhale of the room and the oxygen and the vibe, you started to play more. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when I really picked up on how cool what you do is, because you were really starting to like throw yourself in, but also you were like almost reflecting what the room was giving back to you, mm-hmm. and you would mm-hmm. bring that into your next creation, your next set. Is that something that you do consciously?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, I guess consciously and unconsciously, because I just feel it when the song isn't right, you know, when the vibe isn't right. I try to take note of it, or, you know, just remember that that's maybe not the vibe. Maybe I went too hard, you know, mm-hmm. for that space, or, you know, maybe it was a little too sleepy. But yeah, absolutely right. Like, you know, it's every space just gives you like a different energy, different demographic of people too, you know. So, and Guilt is so near and dear to my heart that I just always wanted a good job. So,
yeah,
you know, yeah, and always downloading new music, you know, always kind of trying to stay abreast of like what's not only what's cool, but what resonates with me. I kind of want to show people what's cool, you know. I want to, more than just like please people, I want to kind of like show them what I think is cool. Yeah, because you know, I feel like obviously I'm a DJ because I feel like I have a good sense of, you know, musical style, and so I definitely want to show people what that is in those environments. And it changes from environment to environment, you know. Sometimes, I mean, a lot of times I won't play the same music that I play at Guilt at other venues, you know. If they're like more loungy, I'll definitely change it up. Also, if the demographic's a little different, you know, I'll change that up. But yeah, the general rule of thumb is like, yeah, just test it out. You know, if they have me back, then, you know, I'll keep testing it until I feel like I figured it out, and then I'm essentially just slotting the new tracks into the old sets and just revamping it, you know, trying to keep it fresh. Yeah. I try to keep it fresh for the servers too, and like the bartenders, you know, because they probably also don't want to hear the same stuff over and over. You know,
they get bored hearing my same playlist of 120 songs over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, which is kind of like, you know, it's 120 tracks is a lot, but you do get kind of like adjusted to it, and so it keeps me excited about it, and it keeps I think other people also listening and being excited when I'm there. Yeah. So totally within my control is something that I like focus on. Yeah.
You mentioned playing to different demographics. I think that any working artist that does gig work can probably attest to this. You know, I talk to live musicians that do, I don't know if you do wedding gigs, but I talk to a lot of live musicians who do, you know, wedding gigs or do corporate gigs, or, you know, the ones where they feel like they're like selling their soul a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it's putting food on the table, and in a lot of cases it's feeding their kids. Mm-hmm. How do you approach, I guess first part of the question is what's sort of the variety of demographics you play to, and what is your specific approach towards those different demographics with how you curate what you're going to perform, and how much do you do? How much is live?
How much is it like ahead of time?
Yeah.
So
I guess it's a 3-part question. Yeah. You can answer one or all 3 of them. I'll probably get distracted by the time you're done either way.
Well, I'll answer it right after those. You know, I like to be as prepared as possible. A lot of times I'm not, but the feeling of preparedness it doesn't really compare. It is, it's always wise to be over-prepared, which again, I am not. Only sometimes I will be over-prepared, and then I can see how much better things can be, even just for stress levels, you know, because I also played instruments, and I played live, like, you know, I played guitar in like a metal band in high school and stuff. And so I know what it's like to like play, and I know what it's like to spin. And it's crazy because there's like a timer going off all the time, you know, like a song is only so long. And so it kind of ends up being a bit stressful, you know. And So over preparing is really good. I do wedding gigs, you know, if anybody's looking for wedding gigs, you know, I'll still do them, you know. And I show up to everything with my 100%, with, you know, if I said yes to it, then I'm showing up with, you know, with my best self, with the best, you know, I'm trying to execute on the highest level, because I want people to tell friends, I'm married too, so I know how much weddings cost, and you want to get your money's worth, and you know, all that stuff. So if I take that gig, I'm definitely coming in prepared. But that is, you know, I try to make sure I know what the demographic is. I want to know what the age group ranges are. I want to know when they want to like turn up, when they want the party to turn up, you know, and all these things. And I've kind of like learned over doing this professionally for the last 3 years is like people paying me for the job. That it's important. It's important to not just be glued to being like the DJ. You gotta just realize a lot more. Like I've realized my place in it. You know, I'm like, people just want music. They don't necessarily want me entertaining the whole time. You know, right. And so I would take on a lot of stress trying to like spin like a whole 7-hour. You know, from the time people are showing up at the cocktail hour to the time they're all leaving. And I would be dead at the end. I would be like kind of stressed out, and I just would never want to do weddings again. So now I prepare in a different way, you know, where I just try to make sure that the songs that people want to hear, they'll hear, you know. A lot of times the bride and the groom will like, let me know what they want. And then I just tailor to that. In the beginning of the set, typically I'll just like, you know, do like a clever playlist or something like that, you know, and not like pretending to mix it. It's totally like, you know, I'm doing my own thing, but it's clearly a playlist, and you know, I pretty much want to just like kill it on the party time, you know, because that's when it really matters, and that's when people that's when they pay attention to the DJ, you know. That's when you have then energy to like still entertain, then I wouldn't throw on a playlist. But I think the prerequisite is just figure out like who's going to be there, what are the expectations, and then I go from there. But it is different every time, and I think I understand for musicians why they don't necessarily love weddings, but you know what, it is pretty lucrative. So
you know, a lot of the music people that I talk to who do weddings, I don't talk to a lot of people who are like, fuck weddings, I hate weddings. Because it's like people are happy and you're playing music and you're getting paid for it. It's the more like corporate gigs that people are like, oh, God.
Yeah. I also do a fair share of corporate gigs.
Yeah, not to knock corporate gigs for all everyone out there paying musicians to do the corporate gigs. Keep paying them.
I mean, exactly, right? Yeah. I have some great partners that I work with that call me for all the things. When they just like have a party, they don't have to worry about a DJ because they know they have a responsible one. They have someone who they have like a great working relationship with. You know, we can. I take requests very, very well. You know, all I need is an internet connection. I don't know why DJ's overcomplicated. Honestly, I really just want, what I'm looking for is freedom in my life. You know, and that's not me being like, no, I don't have that. Like that doesn't say freedom to me. That seems like I'm stuck in something that I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. But you know, I always try to open it. Yeah, if you want requests, sure, I can probably find it. I can download it. It might not be the best transition that I'm going to do, but I'm going to be clever with it because that's what I do. That's what you paid me for, you know. So I try to accommodate all those things. But yeah, corporate gigs are they're typically like shorter than most. They say they pay pretty nice, you know. But yeah, that's kind of like, that's the stuff that pays the bills. You know, that's a 9 to 5 essentially.
Yeah. On the topic, you mentioned, you know, what you're looking for is freedom in your life. Having worked professionally as a DJ for 3 years, am I correct in assuming that's about how long it's been since you've had what I call a Joe job? So it's actually I don't know if it's common in the music community, but it's really common at least in the theater community. It's people, you have your Joe job to like basically supplement the passion, because no one can, you know, very few can actually make it in their chosen passion. So you and I met both working servers at Chill Winston. I think we both managed that at one point. And then you went to Calabash. Also, shout out, it's great place. And then you moved around a little bit after that, but it's been, I think, 3 years since you've had to work that grind. What was it? What was that transition like? Was it scary going, kind of taking the plunge to just go, no, I'm gonna make money doing art?
You know, it was like it's funny because I feel like it was scarier, like thinking about it than actually doing it. You know, it's like, because you overthink it. But my goal was like right after the time of our lives that shall not be mentioned.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
From 2019 to 2023.
Yeah, exactly. Around that time, you know, when I went back to like working and yet another like, you know, bartending job, I was like, this needs to end. I just need like something to give. And I was like, you know, if I can make enough money to have like 50% of my income be my art, or, you know, be it DJing, be it, you know, even video production, you know, which is something I've gotten myself into recently, music production, you know, if it's something that I can get 50% of my income coming from that, I just like felt like I knew that the rest was going to be easy. The first 50%,
getting that first 50% out of
that was kind of the hard part, you know. But what I didn't know is how fast it flipped from 51% to 100%. You know, I did not expect that, and so that's just a lot of more confidence that you gain just through that process of working hard to get there. And you know, I did a fair share of cold calling. You know, I was hitting up everyone. I was hitting up people on my Instagram. I was, you know, trying to. There's still DJs right now that I still hit up because I still want to work with them. Even since that time, you know, it just hasn't came to fruition yet, but you know, it might still. And so I'm really grateful for the ones that did kind of like take a chance on me in the beginning. And I should give a huge shout out to my homie Il Gates, Dylan, who has been my mentor since that time, and even actually before that, because what's cool about him is he's an incredible music producer. You know, he plays all the festivals, he tours all over. He just came back from like a month-long tour just now, and he I started just texting him during like the pandemic when everything was damn it, I mentioned it.
You're talking about like, you know, 1918, right?
Yeah, 1918.
The Spanish flu?
Yeah, exactly.
It was really the Nebraska flu or something like that?
Yeah, so I hit him up on my IG back then. But, you know, I essentially was like taking his courses, and he had no idea, but tons of people were taking his courses. But yeah, one day on his live, like this is like 2020, he announced that he's getting the F out of the heck hole that is the country that he lived in previously. And you know, an English-speaking country close to us.
Yeah, it's an English-speaking country.
And so he announced that live that he's coming to Vancouver. And I was like, no way. This guy, like, this is like, I've actually been dreaming about this moment, you know? So, like, I hit him up a few times, and he's still, you know, he's obviously a little apprehensive because of, you know, because of the virus. Like, who do you talk to? Like, you're coming to a new city, and, you know. And I was just like, you know, just want to hang out, just want to show you around town. And it was like a couple no's, man. You know, it was like, not right now, or, you know, I'm busy. And it wasn't until like, he's like, oh, hit me up in the new year. It was like October or something when we had these exchanges. And so I hit him up in the new year, and I was like, honestly, like, still want to work with you, you know, and I'd love to just like hang. And so he's like, hey, you ever like worked like on putting a studio together? I just need some help like moving things around, like patching chords. And I was like, no, but I'll learn. Like, I can 100% learn. I'm a quick learner. And he's like, okay, come over, wear a mask, and we'll hang. And so, man, I came there, and like the rest is history. Like we became tight, you know. So like he went from like me being his fan to like becoming a close friend of mine.
That's really cool.
And yeah, so that really changed it all.
Is he still in Vancouver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then when I was coming back into the workforce, you know, I was actually had like kind of like a different aura about me. You know, I was like, oh shit, this is possible. You know, I'm now hanging out with like people who are doing this their whole lives, you know, who have like a real impact on my life and how like I approach creativity, you know. And so I really trust him and trusted him back there. Then he's never broken my trust. I've never broken his. You know, we've been tight ever since. So yeah, I kind of got my break through him, lucky break, but I did work for that lucky break, you know. So I think that's something that you always have to keep in mind is like, remember that like luck, like there's always luck. There's always luck, but you'll never get lucky if you don't align yourself, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you have to you need both. Like
you do need both.
You can get your lucky break, but if you're not ready for your lucky break,
yeah, dude.
then it's not a lucky break.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it's recognizing I think the humility in that, but also the acknowledgement of the hard work and possibly sacrifices that you made to get there. That I think those two qualities, the running congruently with each other, are what make really great artists. You know, like knowing that you're a product of circumstance, but also being able to take space and be proud of your work.
Yeah, exactly.
And not be precious with it.
Yeah. You're not in control, but you're also in control. You know, and that's kind of like, you know, a big lesson I think in all of this is like you just constantly have to keep being reminded to keep it real, you know, to not ever like get your head get too big that you think you're like a genius, you know, or you're like the chosen one, you know, like that is so freaking toxic, man. I just don't fuck with that. Like it's just a lot.
You're not the chosen one?
No,
I'm going to need you to cut because I thought we were doing this episode with the chosen one.
No, I am. I'm just saying it'd be shitty of me to say that I am.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned, you know, how you approach work creatively, and kind of, I'm curious because I have a background in all sorts of different styles of music because I'm a huge nerd, and I played in bands all through high school.
What'd you play?
I played the bass.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
It was the easiest way to get in a band, man. You could always play in a rock band if you played the bass guitar.
Yeah.
And everyone was looking for a bass player.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I can figure out how to play the goddamn thing anymore. But
for sure you could. It's
my
like
bass,
riding a bike.
My bass is still sitting at Guilt. Is that no? That's not. Yeah, that's not. I don't.
I see 4 strings.
That's not my bass, is it? I'm pretty sure it's like under the stairs at Guild. Sorry, sound techs. Just because you mentioned that you played metal, but also you mentioned how you like to approach music creatively. Mm-hmm. So I guess my question is, the broad question is, what is your creative process? But because that's such a lame question, I'm coloring it with, do you find that you either consciously or subconsciously bring in elements from genres and from parts of the world that don't necessarily fit, don't necessarily they would fit because all music fits, but you wouldn't necessarily think of them as being something that you would put at a EDM festival,
right?
Or in a DJ set.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. As like, I mean, coming from, let me start maybe with like coming from like the metal background. That was all just feel, that was always all just feel. And thank you. And so I was always just used to not learning and just going by feel. Like, I started music when I was 5, playing the violin. Then in high school, I played trumpet, and then I played guitar. Yeah,
How much of that can you still play?
None. I have a violin under my bed that is a whole other level of dexterity, man.
Yeah, I have a mandolin with a set of strings like hooked inside of it, hanging on the wall. That I'll get around to changing those strings. Like, I've had those strings sitting there for probably 5 years. Mandolin's really hard. The strings are really tiny.
Yeah, aren't there like 2 strings per string?
Isn't
there like 2 like very close tiny strings?
It's an 8-string instrument.
Yeah.
But
you play it like a 4-string instrument.
You play it like a 4-string, and it's strung like a bass. It's tuned like a bass.
Yeah, okay.
So it's
EDAG. EDAG plus like maybe the...
No, it's backwards.
Oh.
So it's the top is the E. So it's E-A-D-G from the top down, so it's a bass backwards.
Oh, yeah. E-A-D-G. Oops.
Yeah. Whatever.
I'm surprised I, like, actually remember the letters, because that is actually going to tie in great to the point I was trying to make, where like, I've actually never, like, really learned
to read?
Cared to learn, yeah. Even though, like, you know, in Czech, there's they put you in like different programs. They give you a few different exercises before you start grade 1, and so you sit down with like the principal and a counselor and your parents, and they give you like a math test, and you give you this and that, and they give you like a singing test, like sing like this very simple C major scale, you know. And I guess like if you at 5 years old can sing a C major scale or something close to it or whatever they needed me to do, you get put kind of into like the music class, you know. And even though I was like in the music class, and so every
They did that
day,
when you were 5?
6 or like 5, 6, like when you're in grade 1. Yeah,
School over there was cool.
They give a shit about artists a lot more, man.
Yeah,
And like,
man.
honestly, like I don't hate that. Like I don't want to like talk trash about like here, because you know, things are great. Although now I'm hearing that like music teachers are not really like being like, the music programs aren't really being funded, and so there's less music teachers and all this stuff, you know. So I don't like hearing that. That's
the
awful.
arts are always in jeopardy.
Like the last thing, even though it's the most important thing, you know. But anyway, so like I never actually like, I could always kind of just like learn a little bit to read music, but never really, you know. And so eventually like learned to play guitar just through listening to System of a Down. Just was a huge System of a Down fan. Learned all of Toxicity front to back.
yeah.
I can still play it because it's all drop D. You can do power chords like this. It's all just like clever picking. I love the simplicity of it, you know. And I've kind of just always followed that technique where it's like, I just don't go. Well, now I do. I try to learn as much as possible now, but back then, you know, it was definitely all feel. Yeah, and so like that's definitely something that I feel like later on did hinder me, because, you know, as you can only get so far just by feel and whatever. And so now that I'm a little bit more interested in finding out like, why do these chords work together? You know, why is this like, why does this actually work together? And like, oh, because it's like a fifth up, you know, and it's like a harmonic, like they're in like the harmonics are literally in harmony with one another, you know, from like the 1 to the 5th or whatever. And so it ends up like I end up like kind of nerding out a lot more on that when it comes to the creative process, which then just informs the way I feel, and I can kind of like either play or, you know, do like I finger drum a lot, so, you know, or finger drumming, or also like just like MIDI arranging, stuff like that. It's a then a mixture between like feel and like learning. But I think what you asked initially was if I like ever put together like things that are like not.
No, yeah, I think more what I was trying.
What was the question?
I think what I was trying to get to, do you find that like all facets of your like do you find yourself being influenced by genres or periods of your life where you were particularly invested in a certain style of music during your creative process? And I guess I can fine-tune the question a little bit more, or just give you a little bit of background to it. One of the things that because I was never more than an amateur musician, but always been a massive, I fell in love with music when I was 10 years old. Like I can pinpoint the moment when I heard a piece of music, and I was like, this is magical. This is actually what life is about, right? And it was like, it's more obviously complex than that and everything. But there's something that's always been really intrinsically like deeply rooted in my soul, to be cheesy. And what I love about my relationship with music personally is one of the things I really nerd out about is when I hear patterns or like when people are like, oh, they ripped that off from so-and-so, they ripped that off from so-and-so. I'm like, literally everyone ever has ripped everything off.
Yeah.
But when you listen to like, you're like, you know, in your Evo, and you know, CBC comes on. Not to say that you have to be in your Evo listening to CBC to listen to classical music, but most of the time I don't think to put it on. And a certain piece of classical music comes on, and like there'll be, you know, it'll be a violin a concerto or something like that, and you listen to the note progression, and you can kind of close your eyes and put a double bass kick behind it, and some speed rhythm, and you're like, that's a metal solo.
Yeah,
that is a metal guitar solo.
Yeah,
like that's exactly what it is. You
Yeah,
can take
yeah,
the
yeah.
same exact progression, put it on an axe, have someone fucking grind it at double speed, and it's the same thing.
Yeah,
You play the Misfits or the Dead Kennedys or stuff from so much stuff from the 80s, Rancid, and you like clean it up, take out the distortion, put in songs about like girls on the beach in California, and you got like all of the 50s. It's like, and it's just, music just repeats itself, and it's
packaged differently.
And it's packaged differently. You look at like old country and or like newer kind of ish country, like the 80s. You got like Hank Williams Jr. and his stuff, and it all like you can just you could probably do it with a computer. You could just change the tone and speed it up or turn it down and throw it in, and it could be a completely different genre of music. And people are like, oh, I don't like that genre.
Yeah,
or I don't like this.
Just take out the drums.
It's all just patterns, and it's almost mathematics in that way.
Yeah, big time.
So I guess my question is, do you like let your fact that you listen to metal? Now I'm not asking if you like make metal DJ beats. I'm asking if you find yourself stumbling across that as you create music, like putting something together and then realizing 6 months later that it's like, could be, if it was done just a little bit differently, it could be a completely different genre.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I listen to so many different genres, man. It's inevitably just seeps into, the work that I make and the things that I sample. Sampling is like such a huge part of like what I do. And, it's like nowadays you don't have to really, and I mean, my understanding is you don't really have to like worry too much about what it is that you're sampling. It's like you'll hear, I hear like Adele and Justin Bieber vocals on like people's tracks on Spotify that I've never before heard of, and they're quite unknown people, but their tracks get plays because they have those like cool samples in it, but it is kind of like the adventure of like, is like finding the needle in a haystack, you're constantly kind of keeping your ear kind of to whatever it is that you're listening to. And so, yeah, I mean, even with like Czech folk music, there's been so many times I've tried to like flip like, a Czech folk song, into something that would resemble like a listenable song without, it's still, you want to keep it kind of like still, with authenticity in it, not trying to just shoehorn stuff, but, yeah, of course, like, I also love that, like, you listen to, like, an old disco song or whatever, like, yeah, it's something random in an Evo, and then you're like, oh, shit, that's the part that repeats in, like, Daft Punk's One More Time, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I love that, man. I love it so much, and, like, I know that maybe I'm wrong, but I would argue that it probably doesn't, like, bother the other artists because a different artist took their art and they like turned it into other art, you know, and it may be the one's good for like listening to at a concert, but the other is like good at like partying to, so they have like different purposes. But yeah, 100%, like that's the thing is like, feels like everything's been done at this point, and so like searching for like the new and the unique and like, it's just such a big part of like music producing because you do want to stand out. Oh, sorry, cat. Stepped on the cat. Because you do want to like, stand out and you want to, make your sound a certain way, but the catch-22 is like, if you're too conscious about it, it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. You got to kind of let go and
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just let yourself, you got to let yourself create, I guess that's where I was going before is like, when I was young, I was a lot more free. And that's why I was able to like, I think create with more ease because I wasn't so bogged down about oh, does this actually like, are people gonna dance to this? You know, or like, is this like in perfect harmony with this other thing? But it's like, oh, but it pulls you in, so who cares? You know, like there's music that is incredible that is just riddled with mistakes. You know, I don't know if you've ever heard of like Burial from the UK.
No.
It's hard to describe, but like he's kind of like I would say, if I was kind of to dumb it down, like industrial deep house.
Cool. Yeah.
But like very kind of like originating, you know, kind of like, or at least it feels like it's like he originated.
When is he from?
Maybe when he came on my radar was like
He's not out
20s.
He's not out of the
or something.
Okay, so he's more recent. He's not out of like the house scene from
maybe
Manchester.
He has like older tracks. I don't actually really know, but like he's become very very kind of popular because he works in a different way where he doesn't like really quantize his music. So his music's really wobbly, and he like samples like things from video games and like, you know, like Metal Gear Solid. There's like one of the only games pretty much that I know, and I remember that sound of like he's shooting a gun and it's like this the cartridge being ejected and it goes ding 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 ding, you know, on the ground, and that's just like one of his sounds that he uses over and over in this like track that just pulls you in. And a lot of it is not on the grid because the software that he makes, like, I guess doesn't have like a quantized feature or whatever.
Right.
And I can't remember which software it is right now, but just it's so unique and it's so like it's so masterfully put together that you know you really you get lost in the music, and then you realize where those samples came from, and you're like, fucking genius. You know, like what?
Yeah.
Like I played that game over and over. Why wasn't I ever able to like hear those nuances? You know.
So do you? It's funny. I asked a similar question like this to a lot of, and sorry, you'll notice as the episode goes on, my questions get like more long-winded and philosophical because I get less sober. But I've asked this question to a lot of lyricists and a lot of writers because I did this when I was younger. If they carry around a notebook, and now it's just a phone, and do they like write down lyric ideas?
Sure.
So I guess the altered version of that question is in terms of like gathering really cool samples and things that you want to mix, or just even if it's just a fraction of it, like a beat. Do you like write that down throughout? Do you like, oh, I got to use that, or you hear 100%. Something and you're like, that sound, 100%. I need that sound.
Yeah. I realized that recently meaning like a year or two, ago, that if I don't like have it stored somewhere as like even a screenshot of like a song that I've heard, or like, something out in the wild, you hear like somebody busking or something, if I don't pick that up, I'm never going to find it again. There's so much things to sample. And nowadays like artists get so clever with just like using their breath to just like, just have like this, like almost a droney thing in their tracks, or using like, any little, like their cat purring or something all throughout the track just to give it like a little bit more depth. And so I crush tutorials on this stuff all the time because I love how people use these things. And so I know that if I'm not collecting, I'm just sleeping. I'm essentially asleep at the wheel. Most of like, and I'm realizing this even earlier, even more recent now, is a lot of music producing is so much less about skill and so much more about style, and that's what it is. It's like, because these people pay attention, they have their ears tuned to what is catching them in the moment, how it's making them feel, and then they just have then the ability to turn it into something that we listen to and we love. But absolutely. I have a phone app called Tape It. Tape It is awesome because it has.
You mean you don't just have a audio recorder with a cassette?
I do want one.
Like what Macaulay Culkin had in Home Alone 2?
Yeah.
Like every kid.
I've been looking for Walkmans, man, and like can't find them.
I have a friend who still makes blank tapes. He still makes like mixtapes.
Why the fuck not?
Yeah, exactly. And I found
it has like a nostalgic feel that can get you in that in that moment, just the clicking of the thing and then you hear the little bit
do you
of
remember?
tape
Do you remember when you had to if you paused instead of stopped it, you wouldn't get the click in between the tracks?
Ooh,
when you're recording a mixtape, instead of hitting stop, if you hit pause, it would you wouldn't get the little click sound in between the tracks.
Some people might like the click though.
Some people might.
That's the thing, I mean,
some people who don't know how to make a mixtape. Jesus.
Yeah, hit pause on your Walkman, idiot.
But I found a bunch and I gave them to him, and it was I don't know how I. It's the best Christmas present I've ever given. He was really excited.
Yo, if anybody gives me a Walkman for Christmas, I'm gonna jump for joy because it's that's another thing, speaking about things that are in your environment, a lot of the stuff that we do now can be so sterile. Everything's quantized, everything's to the grid, everything's in perfect harmony. And so there are tricks to make shit just warble a little bit, make shit just a little out of tune, make the beat a little bit more sloppier, and I really love those resampling techniques, and a Walkman is one of those things. You can take out the tape, fuck it up, and put your clean drum loop on it, and then play it back into your DAW, and it's gonna sound dusty. It's gonna sound dirty. It's gonna have that grit, and that's why I don't give a fuck using my phone to tape things around me, around the house, because the app Tape It. The reason I love it, and this is a hot tip for anybody that doesn't know this, is because I don't have to go flake and find voice notes, because I also never remember that it's called voice notes. I always think that it's a recording or something. Yeah. And I'm then the sound's gone, and I'm God damn it.
I'm always looking for voice notes, just demo,
Yeah, you're what the heck? Where
audio.
Is this stupid app? But Tape It, it's a button you can put on your home screen. So as soon as I look at my phone, one button, and it's recording. It's one click recording, So I love that about it. But yeah, that kind of I think lo-fi is the thing that made us all realize that everything perfect and lined up and tuned up is not actually that exciting. It's not. It doesn't have character. It doesn't have. It's sterile.
That's how I feel about my turntable. The sound of the needle hitting the vinyl, and I don't DJ or anything. I'm just an enthusiast of vinyls, and that the whole ritual. And I say that, and I can picture my record player right now. I have side 3 of Jesus Christ Superstar that I put on 2 weeks ago when I was drunk, and I haven't listened to it. So I don't I'm not I only listen to vinyls. Because Purist. I'm lazy, right? And I'm on my couch, and I'm I want to listen to tunes, and I just reach over and hook my phone up to my speaker, and I turn it on.
Yeah.
But something about going through that whole ritual of putting it on, but then the sound and the crackle, of even if it's a vinyl, you pull it out of its sleeve, and you haven't played it in a while, and you left it out for too long before you put it back in. Even the imperfections of that whole experience, and the dust that's collected on that vinyl, and that little added texture that it gives, is a whole different experience. Yeah. Like you said, talking about, and you remember when, super high definition TVs first came out, and there was something called the soap opera effect. Do you remember when they first came out and everything? I
don't actually know exactly what you're talking about, but I know exactly what you're talking about because I've visualized this. So I've seen it.
You see it on TV, and you're it looks too
surreal.
Doesn't look surreal. Right. Yeah. And it's the aspect ratio.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So I thought it was the frame rate.
It might be that. Ooh. I don't know. Someone told me the aspect ratio, and I was if I use that, I might sound smart. Now you're saying frame rate, and you clearly know what both of those things mean, and I don't know what either of them mean.
I know so much. Man.
So, but it's it's a setting you could change on your television.
Sure.
But I don't think it was when they first came out.
Yeah.
And you'd be watching it, and you're this doesn't, and I'd be at my parents' house. I'd be this looks wrong, guys, and they wouldn't notice because
it doesn't draw you in because you're it's so.
It's too. It was sterile. It was someone bleached the soul of the film.
Absolutely.
And so I get what you mean.
Not everybody sees that.
It's weird. It's really weird. I've tried to explain to some people I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm
I tried to explain that to Natasha.
It's frame rate, I think so.
It's frame rate? Yeah.
It's like you watching The Hobbit, and I was in
It's frame rate, right?
theater watching The Hobbit, and it was the first 5 minutes. I was like, something is weird, and I didn't know what was it, but something was weird.
Yeah.
And it was the frame rate. It was filmed in
60 frames per minute, frames per second.
and
Yeah.
for me, it was like,
Yeah.
it's too
Yeah.
perfect. And
Yeah.
you can see, you don't have motion blur.
Yeah, exactly. Because look at that. When he does that, there is motion blur, you know?
Right.
Despite that even if you haven't done any psychedelics, you can see that there is motion blur, you know? And that roughly translates to either between like 28 frames per second or whatever they have, 27.96 or whatever.
Well, I'm glad it was me that said it was frame rate and you that said it was aspect ratio, because I would look really dumb.
You just switch the audio.
Aspect ratio is like the square from the old TV.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay, all right. You both know what you're talking about, and I don't.
Yeah.
It's enough of educating Brandon time.
Well, and it's actually really interesting, and I love these topics because like the way our brains process the visual information is equivalent to roughly 30 frames per second. That's the way I've been kind of like taught on YouTube University about this.
You went to YouTube University as well?
I did, dude.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't major in that. I majored in useless historical facts.
Oh, sick. Hey, you know what? Also really good. I went to like, my undergraduate was in Bob's fucking dirty toilet jokes book. I don't know.
My undergraduate was in fixing restaurant appliances. I majored in useless historical facts. And
I love that. I was gonna mention that like toilet book. Remember the one that like it's like Uncle John's
John book or something, or Uncle. Yeah.
I used to get all the facts from there.
Yeah.
You just take it for what it is. You're like, yep, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. And you believed it, right? Because back in the day, you could actually like
because there was
quasi-believe things that were in the written word.
Yeah, because like misinformation wasn't like running rampant. If there was misinformation, it was like for entertainment, and it was and was like known as so, you know. Yeah. So we're kind of living a fucked up misinformation world right now.
We do,
to be honest. But yeah, it's really interesting with the frame rate because some people don't see it. And I don't understand how, like, my wife, Natasha, doesn't see it.
She doesn't see it?
No, she's like, what are you talking about?
Oh, it drives me
totally
crazy.
normal.
I'm like, this is wrong.
It's too real. But going back to, like, things just being a little bit imperfect, and I mean, this isn't like an imperfection, but that's too good. That's too sterile. It's 60 frames per minute. It's literally taking the environment and capturing it faster than your human eye can see, you know? So 60 frames per second is roughly twice 30 frames per second.
That's interesting. I'm so glad that I knew that already and had explained that earlier in the episode. You can edit that in, right? No, that's super interesting. I didn't know that.
It's not going to be an easy
but
podcast to edit.
I've always just called it the soap opera effect.
I love that because I know exactly what you're talking about.
I didn't come up with that. I've always heard it called the soap opera effect. It's not online somewhere. But I had no idea nor did I know that that's how fast the eye processed it.
And that's so applicable to music, you know. And maybe it's because, and this is something that I heard about from a book. Shit, what was it called? I'll figure it out. Put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But it was like this book.
Click, and I don't even know how to do it. Click and subscribe. Do we even have a ding bell?
We can.
He's like, we do. We have a thing.
Yeah, we'll put one in. But it's. I think it might be because, like, the author of this book essentially turned my attention onto being like, well, like in like early 1900s, how would you listen to music?
Yeah,
you know, and I was like, I don't
like before the.
And
phonograph?
Then I'm like thinking, vinyl, cassette, and I'm like, oh shit, like how would you? And it's like, oh, you go to a place and you listen to live music. That's why you get like dressed up and you know, like you make a big deal out of it because that's so special. Or you played it yourself. Yeah, exactly. But to get like, you know, at that time, you know, it'd be like, especially in Europe, you would go see like operas and stuff like that, you know, and
But the world didn't have music around it all the time.
exactly.
Like it wasn't an option.
Yeah, and so then if you think about it that way, every musician is imperfect, you know? And so there's going to be imperfections in the whole ensemble. There's going to be things, you're going to hear it somewhere, so that's going to be hitting like a wall or a ceiling, or it's going to be, you know, there's always going to be different ways. And I think like maybe then like cassettes and vinyl kind of still stay true to that within the recording media, maybe not so much within like a recording session, because the way that the recording sounds, if you're expecting your favorite band to sound like that live, you're tripping out. Because that was the best lick just out of that one spot, and then whoever played it like 30 more times, and they chopped that up and put it like right beside that lick, and they chopped that up and put it right there. You know, so it's comps. And so it's comped, it's as close you can get to perfection, but we've always kind of like wanted that. But now that we have perfection in our laptops, it's like we're trying to like...
We're dialing it back.
Yeah, we're dialing it back. Yeah, we're like trying to...
Maybe this wasn't a good idea, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think that's what you're craving when you're listening to like music that just doesn't have that. And honestly, like it's not that hard to put it into a little bit of like variation. I work on Ableton, and Ableton's so dope. They always do the sickest updates. And this newest update for Ableton 12, they made just a simple humanize button for all your MIDI. So you select your MIDI clips, and humanize just like puts all the like little, you know, the MIDI, the MIDI steps just a little out of line, and it makes the velocities just a little bit more random. Not so much that you can really perceive it, but enough that you can feel it. And so a lot more of the software, I think, is going to get on board with that, because like almost every track that I make now, I put vinyl crackle on top, or like bacon sizzling sample, or like a waterfall that I recorded at Niagara Falls, you know, just to have a bed of something that's not perfectly repeating. It's not perfectly clinical. It's like, it has like a natural ebb and flow of it, and it just kind of like keeps this bed. It keeps your ear engaged in that space. And yeah, like, you know, like using a vinyl cracker for like atmosphere and a waterfall as an atmosphere, they might achieve the same technical thing, but they'll give you a completely different feeling. And that ends up being so fun to mess around with, you know? So I actually love doing that. I love using those recordings that I have on my phone and stuff like that. So to go back to your question an hour ago, no,
Which
joking.
was, I'm
yeah,
impressed
you're talking
because
you were talking about like, do you keep like, you know, notes and stuff like that? 100%. Anything that I can find, 100%. If I can like write it down, 100%. I'll take it with me. I'll remember it for later. And when I'm stuck for ideas, I'm like, what was this? What was that? Go through my notes. Go through my voice notes. Go through like my Notion. Shout out Notion. Big Notion nerd over here.
I also know what that means.
No shit.
No, I said I do know what it means. I do.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's great. And I'm saying no shit.
So I guess a question I really want to ask is, when you are, and I love asking artists this question because I find it's always an interesting question to ask. Yeah. When you're approaching the sort of the creative process, it's like, you know, or do you plan like, I'm gonna go home 6? You're like out doing whatever. You're like 6 o'clock. I'm gonna get to go home. I'm gonna have dinner, and then I'm gonna set aside a specific time to make music. And then you're approaching it almost from like an intellectual place. You're like, I need to set this time aside and sit down and create. If I don't come up with anything, it's fine. But as long as I put in the work and the hours, you know, something will happen.
Yep.
Or is it? I don't know if it's the other side of the spectrum. It's that,
but different times a day.
Right.
Yeah. So this is something that that I got turned on to through Producer Dojo. Shout out. That's Dylan Ilgates, who runs and operates it, and his methodology is all about just like getting in flow, in a flow state. And he essentially.
That's a great album, Flow State.
Oh yeah, who's it by?
Dash Sultana.
Send it to me. So yeah, so Dylan essentially teaches a lot of different ways to get out of like creative block.
Right.
You know, because that's a big thing for artists, and I find it all the time, like too much overthinking. Even though like I'm an avid meditator, like dude, I really can overthink, especially when it becomes about like your art, you know, being like, oh, is anybody gonna like this? Who's gonna dance to this? Like I would never dance to this, you know, it just like fucks you up. And it's really kind of like, it brings your spirit down. And so Dylan has this methodology that essentially breaks the production process into nighttime sessions and daytime sessions. And so because there is such a thing as decision fatigue, you know, as you go throughout your day, you essentially get fatigued from making all the decisions, and until like the last decision of your day is like, should I eat this chocolate bar before bed or not? Yeah. It's like, yeah. You know, because you're just completely defeated. You've had so many decisions to make. You're like, I'm not making any more decisions. I'm just going to pig out on whatever cookies or whatever, you know? So it's like making bad decisions in the end because like, but you just being aware that it's decision fatigue is very helpful for a lot of things. And so he created this thing called daytime sessions. Nighttime sessions where like a nighttime session is like, you know, you have a little drink, you smoke a doobie, like TV can be on, you're hanging out with your spouse on the couch. And you're essentially like preparing your ingredients as a chef would, you know, before like they cook. And so you would like go through your folder of like Instagram loops or Instagram, like what I have is like, I always have like an Instagram tab that has like, if I like something, it's like, you know, I save it to a certain folder in Instagram that says sample this. And so on my nighttime sessions, I go into that and I just sample that Instagram folder, make myself, you know, put it into like the folder that's Instagram samples. You know, I go into my YouTube, which is the same thing. I go to my TikTok, which is the same thing. Then I might like go and jam on a synth for a while, you know, you're essentially just wanking and collecting, you know, you're just wanking around. But what's cool about it is because you're maybe, you know, you're not in your most sober headspace. You're not like, you know, your decision fatigue is completely run out. You have different ways of approaching this task where you're a little bit more like, you know, liberal with your like, you know, you might like sample like a burp or like, you know, like something else. But later on, there's the daytime sessions. And so the daytime session is something that you do on a timer. And so this is, I've had the best results were making music on a timer, dude. And I think it kind of contradicts the popular belief, but if you really think about it, it makes sense because if you're overthinking constantly, you're not, first of all, gonna like really get things done on time. Like you're just gonna keep overthinking, you're not gonna finish anything. Yeah. And also, there's nothing really pushing you to finish it. But if there's a timer pushing you, you know, it's a whole nother ball game. And I urge anybody who produces music or does anything creative to work on a timer, because I have like a Tabata timer on my watch. That's essentially, it's called Seconds Pro, is this Tabata timer. And I've made different workflows. So he starts you off with different workflows, but I've made my own, you know, where essentially like for 10 minutes, I'll be like flipping a sample. And so like, it's like 10 minutes, flip a sample, 10 minutes, make drums around the sample or whatever. It could be a different timer, but essentially flip a sample, make some chords to it, make a bass line, make the beat, you know, make the drop, you know, try to figure out what is the A section, what is the B section, and then, you know, then essentially arrange it, mix it, and by that time it's like 70 minutes have gone by, and you have something resembling a track. And that feeling of accomplishment in the beginning of the day, when you like you've saved your decisions for the beginning of the day, for the most important part, which arguably for me is my creative endeavor, you know, is the most important part. Then you have that feeling of accomplishment. Maybe your track sucks, but who cares? You spend an hour on it, you know? And if you do that 5 days, 6, 7 days in a week, man, like your 4th, 5th track is going to sound a lot better than the first and second one. I guarantee you, you know, even if you're an amateur, even if you're a noob, that sense of accomplishment really actually triumphs over like, ooh, well, somebody vibe out to this. It's like, who cares? You've been fiddling with that song for 3 months. Who cares? Make something new. Maybe somebody will like that.
Leonard Cohen's been 15 years writing Hallelujah.
Yeah. So exactly. There's definitely like 100% like a methodology to the chaos that can be.
That's really cool.
Like,
and I think those are like good words of wisdom for any practice in any artistic endeavor.
Yeah, that nighttime session, daytime session, whatever it is that you do, prepare your ingredients at night and execute in the day. And don't execute for too long, because you also don't want to you want to take ample breaks. If you want to write 3 beats that day, do it with breaks in between. But honestly, like, unless you may be working with a friend, which can just mutually like help the process speed up. If you're on your own, work on a timer. Get yourself, like whatever, an egg timer that you turn, and you're like, for this turn, I'm going to work on drums. For this turn, I'm going to flip a sample.
Yeah.
It really does pay dividends in the end. And the only hard part is like, then staying focused for long enough,
Yeah.
Which like, we have so little attention these days, honestly. I'm even speaking for myself. Like, it's just what it is. Yeah. All of our attention.
I mean, I honestly think that our current, like, I grew up growing up in the 90s when it was like, before I think like 1992, we had two definitions for ADD and ADHD. It was hyperactive or piece of shit. And it was like your kid's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
yeah. And that's basically what, and I don't say that. I say that as being called a piece of shit. Not by my parents. I had wonderful parents. But I honestly think that the fact that we're such a clickbaity society now, and I'm so fucking guilty of it. Mm-hmm. Now, I remember when TikTok first came out, and I was like, I don't understand it. They're 10-second videos. This is so dumb. Mm-hmm. And now I'm sitting there scrolling on YouTube Shorts. I'm like, oh my God, I became a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And no one has the attention span for story anymore, for anything.
Well, it's true. And, I think, like, as artists, like, it becomes our like, it becomes our becomes like a framework to work within, I'm not mad at it, honestly. I'm totally not mad at it, because it's harder because now at least that people's attention spans are short. At least if you make a
10-minute track of all times.
Yeah, like, you're shooting yourself in the foot, unless you're like Steve Reich or something, and people Fred again can make a 12-minute track and people will sit through it. But like, if you're a nobody just like trying to like throw out bangers, like, you're not gonna like score with a 10-minute track. Like, it's got to be quick. It's got to be digestible. It's got to have a hook. It's got to, it's just got to like engage, and it's got to have like a story within that, Yeah. And maybe if you did your marketing, I don't want to say right, but if you did your kind of like marketing properly, chances are you've told your audience the story about that track. And you've showed them the behind the scenes, and you've showed them kind of the trials and tribulations you went through to get there, and that is something that is potent. Like, people love that shit, especially if you can give it to them in tiny spoonfuls. Eventually you give them a whole pot, but you're just feeding them, because like, they're scrolling all day long. Like, they see you there, and then they see you there, and then they see you there, and it's fine. It just has to be broken up, and we can still be artists and make these like elaborate pieces, definitely. And I'm guilty of making tracks way too long. Like, I'm like 3.5 minutes. Like, cut the fat.
No, I love the 3.5 minute track.
Yeah, but it's like, you just want to get to the point.
And you send me all your songs like that you're like way too long. You just send them to me, and I will tell you what to add in to make it a 7, 8, 9, 10. One of my favorite tracks of all time is 20 minutes long.
Whoa, maybe it's 30 minutes. What's it called? The 20-minute song?
No, it's Allman Brothers. It's like my favorite live recording ever.
Oh, it's live.
Allman Brothers live at the Fillmore East.
Dope.
Yeah.
Oh, wicked.
There's like 4 or 5 tracks on it that are over 17 minutes long. It's just because they were just a stoned jam band.
Yeah.
Anyway, we do have to end somewhere
Today?
So today, we just have to end the recording so that people will actually watch it, because when you get to a certain point, people just click past it. I don't know. But I want to ask you one final follow-up question to sign this off.
Yeah.
It is right now. It is early February 2025. Shout out Black History Month. I think this will probably air sometime late in the month or early March. A lot of 2025 left after that. So I guess what I want to ask you is, what are you excited about for 2025, and what are you pushing for moving forward
in 2025? Yeah,
and beyond.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think like at this point, like honestly, when it comes to like kind of my everyday, you know, how I'm gonna pay rent and what I'm gonna eat and stuff like that, it's like much easier to plan like 1 year ahead. But yeah, with music, with creativity, it's like a 5-10 year, you know, like you want to get to different place, and you always you kind of plan long term, you know, a lot more. I've learned that it is way better to plan long term, because you're gonna get there. If everything goes to right, you're gonna get to long term. You know, if shit hits the fan, you're not, unfortunately, and I'm sorry, but you know, if everything goes to plan, you're gonna be 40, you're gonna be 50, you're gonna be 60. You know?
I don't think I'm gonna be 40.
Okay, stop.
Definitely not.
It might happen.
I think because it goes 1984 and then 95 and then 2005 and then 2025, right? So
exactly. Yeah.
I'm like
something in the middle.
I'm 21, guys.
Yeah. Hey, that makes me like 16. I don't even know. I have no idea how old you are, and I don't know how old I am at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but no, you know, I actually really, honestly, I really want to just keep the ball rolling. You know, I don't ever want to get like bogged down by things that are happening around me, by the turbulence of the world, you know, because we live in some crazy times, and I want to make sure that I'm proofing myself from that. I want to make sure that my creativity and my love for what it is that I do is always there. And because I've been doing this for so long, you know, there can be times where you're like really down and you're talking, you know, there's negative self-talk in everyone, you know, and artists especially have that kind of like, I'm a nobody, you know, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, what is it that I'm even doing? What is it that I'm doing for? So, you know, my plan for 2025, man, is like, honestly, to just keep that spark alive, keep it going, keep it moving forward. Cheers, bro.
I'll drink to that.
Yes, sir.
No Zdraví. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
He's
a little harder on the R.
You're like,
nice,
no, you sound like shit.
No,
Anyway, YAWN, I am delighted and excited to see what you do. You are a brilliant artist.
Thank you, bro.
It's a pleasure knowing you and a pleasure talking to you. DJ YAWN, I don't know your handles. We can put them in the description. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
For sure. Yeah, put it in the description. Yeah.
Or you can say
it right on
yeah,
something. Yeah. So people can find me at DJ YAWN. It's like at DJ.yawn, like YAWN. I wore this for this plug.
Yeah. Yeah. Is his shirt in the shot?
For sure.
Yeah.
Maybe. But that's where people can find me on Instagram. Also, search DJ YAWN on Spotify if you want to hear my music. I've done some amazing collaborations with, you know, my once, someone that I was a fan of that then became a collaborator, that then became a friend, Il Gates. We did an album together like a year and a half ago with also Pavan of the Foreign Beggars from the UK. So check it out on Spotify. Just check out DJ YAWN on Spotify, on Instagram. And you know what? There's just too many social medias. There's too many social medias.
There's too many social
If
medias.
you hit me up on Instagram, I'll answer. You know, if you look up my music on Spotify and you hit the little like follow this artist button, it's better than payment. So I appreciate all of that.
So
and that's
follow up
that's
with YAWN on Insta-Tweetbook.
Insta-Tweetbook?
Insta-Tweetbook. That's the one you said, right?
You know, like, yeah.
I mean, this channel has Instagram, but
I blew up my Twitter, honestly. My tweet's been blown up, and it is now just a trolling account, honestly, just to tell people things suck.
All right. To trolling.
To trolling, bro. That's heavy.